Welcome to the Solo Grind, where we shine a light on the raw and real journey of being a solo entrepreneur. I am Teresa, your guide on this adventure of going it alone without a safety net and without the rule book. The grind is real, my friend, and so are the wins, the freedom, and the joy of building success on your own terms. I'm here to debunk the myths, share some laughs, and share what it takes to thrive as a go-getter, busy, doing it all entrepreneur. Hey there, welcome back to the Solo Grind for those of you who have tuned in with me before. And for those of you just joining me for the first time, I am so glad you are here. Welcome. Today's episode is going to be a little bit of a personal one, and I want to put that out there before we get started um, because. Because it's personal and I may get triggered. There may be times when I pause and get a little emotional, and I just want to give you a heads up that that might be happening. But really, what I want to convey with today's message is not share personal tragedies or get sympathy or have anybody say, oh, poor Teresa, or anything like that. What I want to convey with this is proof that we are responsible and in charge of our own success. And we have choices each and every day, whether you are a solo entrepreneur, working a corporate job, own an agency or a business, or you're a stay at home mom. You are responsible for your own success 100%. And you are responsible when that success is not achieved. And I know that seems a little harsh for some people. I know it seems mean to say that because we're like, well, wait a minute, wait a minute. You don't understand my life. Life threw me these challenges. Life happened around me, and I wasn't in charge of that. I didn't create that. I didn't do that. And I'm like, yep, you're right. Sometimes life throws us some really crappy situations. And I'm going to share the crappiest year of my life, actually, here in just a moment. But with those crappy situations, when life throws us those tragedies, those struggles, those challenges, how we respond to them is our choice. How we stand up and face them, how or hide from them, whatever we choose to do, that is our choice. And it is our response to these situations, these life changing situations, that honestly determine what level of success that we are going to achieve and whether we accomplish our goals or not. So that's kind of what I want to talk about here today. And as I said, I'm going to share some personal details here. Um, so thanks for being here and being witness to this. And I hope that this episode, I just want to put this up front. I really hope that this episode helps you realize that you are in charge of your success. And no matter what life tosses your way, you can find a way to get there. You may have to pivot. You may have to pause. You may have to regroup and do things differently. But I know you can achieve your goals when you're focused on doing so. And I myself am living proof of that. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. And I want to share, like I said, some personal stuff. I'm going to go back a few years because this really was probably the worst year of my life. Actually, it's not probably. This was absolutely the worst year of my life. But I also want to preface that to say that it was one of the best years of my life as well, because while I faced some really incredible challenges throughout the entire year, I also found new levels of success. I learned more who I am as a person. I learned so much out of that year. And to paraphrase Charles Dickens, it was the worst of times and it was the best of times. And actually, I think that sentence is reversed in A Tale of Two Cities, but I can't think of anything that was more true than that. So let's go back. Now, I'm going to go back to a year that honestly makes all of us groan when we hear this year, and it was 2020. So this was a crappy year for pretty much a lot of us, honestly. There were so many things going on that year. There was a lot of just uncertainty and stuff like that. But it's also the year when my life fell apart around my around me. I mean, literally fell apart. So looking back at 2020, I started off the year with facing an aggressive breast cancer. This was not, like ooh, we found the tumor early and can take care of it quickly kind of breast cancer. This was a rare form of breast cancer that was incredibly aggressive and honestly threatening my life. I have no doubt that had I not acted quickly, my life would be in a very different place right now. And so that was the start of my 2020 is some really hardcore chemotherapy, surgery and just crazy amount of medications to help take care of the nausea. Okay. Now, I am not saying this because I want to rip on chemo. I want to rip on cancer doctors. I don't want to rip on modern medicine. In fact, I want to say this really quick because I don't think we give our cancer docs enough credit. I am so grateful to the research that has been put into cancer, and I have witnessed firsthand just how quickly that research grows and moves and makes lives better. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that. So, no anti-cancer bashing here. I don't want to hear anything about bad things about medical. I'm just sharing what it was. A very rare aggressive breast cancer. So that's how I start off the year. And just as I'm starting to kind of settle into what treatment's going to be and how it's going to impact me and what it's going to do to me, we had a tragedy happen in our family. A horrific, God, I don't even know that I want to call it a tragedy. It was a horrific incident that should have never happened. And I'm not going to go into detail because I just don't want to share the personal aspect of that because it's not just my story to tell, even though the people involved, most of them know that I'm going to talk about this to some degree. I don't want to go into details, but I'm just going to say this. It was one of those moments, those horrific moments that honestly could break a family apart. And it nearly did. I did not know going into February of 2020, I did not know if my family was going to survive and come out whole and be a family. And, honestly, we're not fully whole. We're stronger as a family. We're closer, most of us are, but we're not whole. And I think that's all I'm going to say about that one. So anyway, so here we are, 2020. We all know what's going on. January, aggressive breast cancer. February, family being broken and falling apart. And we all know what happened in March. In March, we are hit with this freaking global pandemic. Now, as a solo entrepreneur, I was not alone in my fear of what that was going to do to my business. I'm a brand strategist, web designer, and a lot of people were cutting back on expenses, cutting back on things that they wanted to do. They weren't going to invest in marketing. They weren't going to, because they felt like they had to cut back. And I get it. I totally understood that. And so I didn't know when that hit and everyone starts shutting down, I didn't even know if I was going to have a business in a couple months, and while I had money to kind of sustain me, you know, for a while and stuff like that, I still had to have an active business. I still had to have clients coming in. So terrifying, terrifying year. All right. And just as things start to settle down, the world starts opening up. This is, months further ahead than March. But just as things start to kind of settle down and the world starts opening back up, and I think that we're going, and this tragedy or this freaking sorry about drop the F-bomb on you guys. This freaking horrific incident, we're starting to put that behind us and rebuild our family. Um we roll into this, into late summer, and I nearly lose both of my parents in a matter of weeks because of this, COVID-19. So that year, I had every excuse to throw up my hands and say, I'm done. I had every built-in reason to say, I can't build my business. And I was still really building at this time. I mean, this is still when I was, always looking for the next contract. And, I feel like I've come a long way and I'm feeling pretty confident and comfortable in my business now. And I've got a good steady flow of new clients and the previous clients and all of that. But back then things were still iffy and there was a lot of uncertainty in my business. And now we're rolling into this year of like, what the heck? Like everything crumpling, my health, my family stability, my business, my parents, all these things gave me built-in excuses where I could have said, I just couldn't make it happen. I just had to let go of the business. I just couldn't do it. And nobody would have faulted me in that. Nobody would have said, "Oh, you're weak, Teresa. Like you should have done better. You should have planned better." Like nobody would have done that. Everybody would have been like, "Yeah, you did your best and it's okay." And then there'd be a pat on the back and then let's move on. But that was not what I was about. That's not who I am. When I set out to do something, I am going to do it. I'm going to do it to the best of my abilities. And I'm going to strive for excellence. And I'm going to do it well. That doesn't mean that I keep pushing through goals that don't resonate with me. But this is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to live life on my own terms and I wanted to have this business. I wanted to be a voice for other women in my position with solo entrepreneurs. I wanted to help them stand out authentically and genuinely and be themselves and not follow some cookie cutter crap that is preached to us in the entrepreneurial world. And I had a passion behind my business that was really, really important to me. So I had to make a choice. Do I fall victim to these excuses, which were good ones? Again, very good ones. Do I fall victim to these excuses and give up my dream and my business? Or do I move forward? And obviously, I move forward because I'm here today. But I, I, I want to say, like, I was tempted to give up. I was tempted to throw in the towel. I was tempted to say, this is too hard. But I knew that I had a dream and a passion that was more important than my excuses. And so with that, I want to share a little bit about now, what I did. How did I stay focused on my success? How did I stay focused on my goals? How did I keep pushing forward when everything was falling down around me? So obviously, I chose success. That's easy. And that's kind of that accountability piece of things. I chose to focus on my success, on my goals, on my business versus choosing to focus on the excuses. And that honestly kind of helps me coming to the next point here is that I refused to take point blame at anyone. I did not want to blame this cancer diagnosis. I did not want to blame the person who broke our family. I didn't want to blame that person. I didn't want to blame a freaking global pandemic or whoever believed that started that. Like what are all the theories and stuff that was going around there. I didn't want to blame the economy. I didn't want to blame anybody. I simply wanted to say, nope, that is not my life. I am going to step up and I'm going to be a success despite everything in front of me. I'm going to find a way around these obstacles and I'm going to take care of these challenges and I'm going to show up for myself. And I took responsibility 100% for my success in that moment. All right, so here's what I did. So first of all, I had to get really clear on what mattered the most to me. And again, that goes back to not accepting excuses, making a choice to face the challenges head on. And in doing so, what was most important to me? Did I want to sit there watching the news all day long and wallow in all the crap going on in the world? Nope. Did I want to sit there and sob about the horrific garbage that happened to my family and cry and journal and sob and sob and sob? Nope. I had plenty of crying moments. There's no doubt about that. But I set a timer and was like, all right, girlfriend, now we got to move on. You had your moment to cry. Let's move on. I felt the feels, but I didn't stay stuck in them. Instead, I focused on what really mattered. And there was two things that I knew in that moment I had to focus on, two priorities that I had to take care of. Well, three. Let me say three, actually. So the first one was obviously my health. I had to prioritize my own health and care. Now, the doctors were doing amazing things to take care of and cure the cancer that was in my body, but I still had to recover from those treatments and I still had to take care of me. And so that was priority number one, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of anything else. We've got to put ourselves first. Women, I'm going to say that again because I know too many women that don't hear that. We have got to take care of ourselves first, plain and simple. Because when we do, that's when we have the capacity to care for everything else around us that we take responsibility for. So I prioritized my health and vitality. All right. Next, I had clients that were paying me. They knew what was going on. I was very open about my journey and they knew what was happening, but I still had a responsibility to them. I still had an agreement and I still had to show up for them. So prioritizing care of my clients was a big one for me. I wasn't necessarily looking for new clients, although I surprisingly got quite a few new clients that year, but I was making sure that the ones who had counted on me, that I was showing up for them in the best possible way I could. All right. And the third priority was my family. Not only did I need them to lean on to help me get through my own struggles in my health, but they needed me to help us deal with this crisis. We needed each other. And I didn't want to lose my family entirely. I wanted us to come out of this stronger than ever before. And we had to prioritize each other in a sense. So that's honestly where I put my focus and what I was doing. And in doing so, a lot of the noise that was coming out, and that was a very noisy year for so many of us. I mean, think about where you were in 2020 and the noise around you about all the things that didn't matter. Putting things into perspective and knowing what my priorities were really helped me shut out the noise and take steps forward to achieve the success that I was looking for. All right, so now we've taken a look at the awfulness of that year, all the things that I was facing, all the things that we did, the cancer, the horrific event in my family, the global pandemic, nearly losing my parents, all those things that were going on around us. But now I want to switch gears because that was the worst of times. And now I want to share with you the best of times and what came out of that year. So on the surface here to address the big issues. First of all, I beat cancer. All right. So yay me, I beat cancer. I don't like focusing on that. I don't want to define myself by my cancer. But yep, I beat cancer and I kicked its ass. And I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna apologize for that little swear word there. 9 months from the day that I found the tumor, I completed my treatment and began recovering from and rebuilding my life and my energy, my vitality, my health, and all of those things. And it's been a long road, but I'm happy to say that I've come a long way and I'm 100% cancer free. So, yay, that's awesome. Okay, the next thing was with my family. The members of my immediate family that are all still together, we bonded together and we became stronger and we've rebuilt our family in a way that is supportive to each and every one of us. I mean, what happened still affects us and it still shows up at times, but as a family, we love and respect each other more than I think we did before everything happened. And I would not ever want to repeat what happened to make that respect come through. But I'm grateful that that has been the result of that. So we came through this and are much stronger together. So awesome there. My parents are thriving. They're doing much better. It was a heavy hit on them because they are both, in their 80s, but they're thriving and doing good. My pops is awesome. He calls me every once in a while. Life is good. My mom is like a fitness queen now. I love it. She's exercising every day. So they're doing amazingly well. All right. So good things. So those are the things that came. And my business, that's what I'm forgetting here. My business thrived that year. I was so amazed when I turned my focus to what really mattered the most. I grew my business. That was probably the biggest growth year of my life. And I grew my business 200%. And I'm not exaggerating. So it was amazing in all of those ways. But here's the things, like those are the things that I can show on paper that I accomplished from that year that came out of these horrific events that happened. But here's the things that we don't think about. I was able to discover what really mattered to me, what was most important in my life, and cut out that noise. I was able to see who really did have my back and who has my best interest in mind and who belongs in my inner circle. So that was a really big, big, huge win. And I was able to see that despite all the hardships that can be thrown at a person, I was able to come out of it and call that year a success. I mean, those are still, I feel like I'm barely dipping or touching the tip of the iceberg here because it was so much that I gained through that. And sometimes it's through adversity that we learn our greatest lessons. All right. So that's basically today's episode, what I wanted to share. And if you take anything away from this episode, I want you to remember, first of all, that no one is ever going to prioritize your dreams as well as you. People want you to succeed. People will cheer you on to some degree, but nobody is going to make your success a priority unless you do. So you've got to hold yourself accountable. I also want you to remember that challenges are going to come your way. You're going to have big ones, you're going to have little ones, and there's going to be moments when you feel overwhelmed. You feel like giving up, you feel like throwing up your hands and saying it's not worth it. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's not the dream you should be pushing forward. But if it is the dream that you really have, the one that won't let go, the passion that keeps you up at night when new ideas come your way, it's worth pushing through. It's worth facing those obstacles, facing those challenges, and prioritizing what really, really matters rather than aligning with excuses and sidelining our success. All right, my friends, that is it for this episode of the Solo Grind. Thank you so much for being here and for witnessing my story and for just being a part of it. And as we close out today's episode, I just want to let you guys know and remind you that if you're facing obstacles, if you're facing challenges, big or small, whatever they are, please, you owe it to yourself to take a moment and look to see, do I have excuses that are holding me back from stepping into my power, from stepping into this leadership role that I need to achieve the success that I'm striving for? And what can I do to move beyond those excuses? Let go of the distractions and focus on what you can control. And most of all, keep moving, my friend, because you, I know, can be a success. You have it in you to be exactly what you dream of being and so much more. So, all right. Thank you so much for tuning in again. I appreciate you and would love to connect with you if you have any questions. If you're facing a challenge, whatever the case might be, my contact information is always in the show notes. Reach out, connect. I am here for you. Together, we are going to get through this crazy solo grind and achieve new levels of success that we cannot even imagine. Have a great week, and I look forward to connecting with you again next week. Thanks for tuning in to the Solo Grind. I hope this episode brought you some inspiration and encouragement. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast, and feel free to share. For more tips and insights, visit caffeinecreative.io to check out my blog or explore the Creative Vault, my free course library. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to hear how this episode has helped you.